Hi mate, I'm just going to demonstrate this tool for you. So I've just been using it for my own personal thing, create a truss. So I'll go into the settings. So this is the truss thing that I've done. So the assembly is the positioning of these elements, and this is element 1 and element 2. So you can see that's it's locked up. If I unlock that, so that's custom. There's just a couple of objects that I've saved, but we'll go back to the start. I think it might even be defaulting to starting in this configuration, but what we'll do is we'll just unlock these. We'll go to element 1 and we'll apply the defaults. Okay, get rid of that void at the moment. There's a second element, so we'll go to element 2. So basically in this interface, you have 8 elements in the tool. Elements are just pieces of geometry. And then there's a 2D and 3D representation, and then the component catalogs, which is the first page that you saw. So if I just go to element 1, an element is comprised of matter and void, so the solid geometry and negative geometry. And the void can, if you use the add command, it can also be a solid element. Okay, so what I'm going to do to demonstrate this is I'm just going to create a table. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the tabletop. So we'll just use this. In the element we have, for the matter, we have extrude, revolve, and tube. Same for the void. And then there's a series of parameters that help you define that. There's also positioning parameters down here. I think one of these is actually set to 90. Change that back to 0. And then there's the material. I don't know why I changed it to that. Just go back to something like that. Okay. So we want to use an extrude because we're just going to do a rectangular extrusion for a tabletop. The shape is actually 4. Best to do this in 2D, but with a tabletop, something simple, you could actually set it in here. So these are your X and Y values. The ones after this you ignore. They're only relevant for computing other things. And they're automatically populated. So it's just these first two. So you can see here X, Y. So you could effectively, if you knew you were doing a 1200 by 2400 table, you could just do, say, minus 600 minus 1200, so that's half. So that's setting the table in the middle, obviously. Although we have defaults set up here, so this is not going to work. Let me just click OK. So if I jump back in there, it's reverted back to the defaults. So I've got to turn that off first. And then I can set it in here. Or I can set it in 2D. I'll go to the 2D view. You have a series of hotspots. Now the appearance of those hotspots is determined by if you have the guide set to component or assembly. When you want to set the geometry of a component, you set it to component. When you want to nominate where those components are placed, you set it to assembly, and then you get movable hotspots for the positioning of elements for these values down here. Okay, so we'll leave it on component for now. We'll click OK. This is our insertion point here. So if we want that to be the center of the table, then we need to start doing some negative values. So I'll just do a negative 600 in the X and a negative. Move this one down. Same. So it would be 600 tab negative 1200. Same with this. So you can see with something with an element like this, it's easier to just do it in the array. But with other more complex geometries, it's probably makes more sense to do it here on screen. Okay, have a look in 3D. So there's the tabletop in 3D. I want to shift it up, so I'll go into the settings and I'll set it to Z value. So we've got X, Y, Z to what, about 800 minus the thickness, which is 75. So 725. And click OK. So now you can see the table is raised up off its insertion point down here. Okay, now we want to give it some legs. So I'll go into the settings here. So I need to add another shape. So I'll go to the second element. I'll turn that on. The legs I want to be a revolve. This is positioned way out here for some reason. And just from other things that I was playing around with. Make sure it's all set to 0 for now. Revolve should be 360 degrees. And then we just go basically set the profile down here. So the revolve goes along the x-axis, so you have to rotate it 90 degrees, but I'll do that afterwards. So click OK. So here we got the guides for the revolve. Now I have to fix this up. This is actually the second node here, so this is a bit inverted. It should be in this position, and this node should be in that position. So just for now, when you go in, invert it like that. What you'll find is that this node can't actually go into the center position. It's not allowed. You try and center it, as you see, it defaults back to a different one. Okay, that's because it'll invert the object. So this one can. Okay, so we're just going to do a leg that's the height that we need it to be. So that's 725. So if we just go tab 725, tab 0, enter. So that's the height of our leg. Come in to be a bit closer, because otherwise that's going to be a very fat leg. So we might just do something like 30. Oops, that was the wrong 30. 30, and do it here. Okay, now we have a look at that in 3D. So we got one leg down there. Now we need to multiply it. So you've got a quantity here. So we're going to do 4. That means we end up with 4 rows here. So we can do all our different positions. Now we know the size of the table, size of the leg. It's 60, so that's 30. If you want it hard up against the edge, it's 30 off the edge. So minus 570. Okay, 4, and now we need to rotate them. So we're rotating the y-axis. We're rotating it back this way, so that's a minus 90 for the y. Minus 90. Oh, yeah, I'll just do more. Okay, there's the table. So what we can do now, I'll just show you that in 3D first. Okay, so there's the table. Now you want to save that element, and we might want to save the leg type and the tabletop type. You can do a tube around that in the void if you wanted to actually put a profile on that edge. So you'd turn on this void, you'd select tube, you'd nominate the profile of your tube on screen, and then you wrap it around. I'll show you how to do a tube shortly, actually. Actually, maybe I'll do that. See how well it works. So we're going to do a tube. It's going to be subtract. We want to show it so we can see the thing. Oh no, we're not doing it for legs. Sorry. We're doing this for the tabletop. First, let's store these legs. So I'm just going to have these as table. Let's just go leg 01. Upload that. It's not available yet until you hit the download button, and now it's available. So that's now locked to leg 01, so I can't change any of these values in here. If I try to change this to 1200, click OK, it actually reverts. Oh no, that's because that's positioning. Positioning is part of the assembly. If I try to change the shape here to say 50, you see it just changes back. Okay, so that's now the leg defined. We go back to element 1, and we can save this tabletop as well. We'll just go top 01, and we'll upload that. Download. Now you got top 01 there. Now what we'll do, we'll put a void, and we'll put a we'll cut a profile around the edge. So I'll just go void tube. I want to show it so that I can work with it, basically. And that should be about right. Now we go do the rest in 2D. So click OK. 2. So this is my tube here. So I'm going to go, I'll just cut a very basic profile off it. Maybe I'll do, that's going to cut a fair groove out of it. So the profile, let's just say the profile is going to look like, put a little curve on this to make it interesting. Alright, so that's going to be the profile. And then I do my path. And I just move the path. Oops, that's the wrong node. That's part of the profile node. So I'll just move that out of the way. Grab my path node. Put that back in. Now you have to work out basically which way this tube is wanting to run. Because it'll invert itself if you run it down the wrong direction. So I'm just going to bring it outside. Whoops, don't want to put a curve on it just yet. You can curve the path, obviously. I just want to see what's going on first. Okay, so let's have a look in 3D. So that's the tube, it's travelling around in there. It's not high enough, we've got a 75 high bench. Okay, so it's going where I expect it to, so I can start this and wrap it around in this direction. I just need to increase this height. So I'll increase this height. Okay, so this is my first node, which I'll just put down here somewhere. Next node will go there. Here. We're going to need a couple more nodes, so the last node will go there. We'll go going to get a bit messy with all these nodes, but this is fine. Take a node up there. Bring another node down to this corner. And take this node into that corner. And let's have a look at that in 3D. Okay, so that's that tube wrapping around. And then if I go here and turn that off, make it a subtract, and you see what it does to the tabletop. That sort of design, we're probably going to have to move the legs back in a bit further. That's basically how it works. So what we'll do now is we'll go and save that as top 2. Upload, download. So now we can just toggle between top 1 and top 2. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll just make the geometry of the leg a little bit more interesting. We'll make a second type there. So we go back to our leg, unlock that, click OK, come down here, and now we can just add nodes into this leg element here. So you start here, and we'll just bring it in. I'm not going to do anything too clever design wise because I'm not a table designer, but I'll just show you how. Oops, that's not where I wanted that to go. I'll just show you sort of what you can do. Alright, pretty crazy. So we'll now go into the settings. So you got this crazy leg. We will upload this as leg 2. upload, download. Okay, now we've got a couple of different leg types and tabletops. We go back to our components and we can create our own assemblies. So if I go, let me just make sure I've got all the data. Where's leg 2? I'm not doing leg 2. Anyway, do it here. Upload leg 2. Download. There we go. Leg 2 is there. It's not there yet. You got to download all. Now we've got leg 2 in here as well. Okay, so if I went top 1, leg 1, and I'll save this as table 1. Hit upload, download, and there is table 1. So that when you save the assembly, it locks these 2 elements, but it also sets the positioning. So in this here before, I now can't edit the position of these elements. If I try change that to 600, click OK, it reverts back. But that's not due to this element, that's due to the assembly being locked. So if I uncheck that and I go back to that element and I want to change the top, 600, okay, so I can change it. But then if I go back here and I lock this back to table 01, it jumps back up to the 725. Okay, so that's the first table done. We want to do the second table. You just unlock these and that unlocks the assembly as well. This one will do top 2 and leg 2. We might want to reposition these legs, so go into this element here and go into the position and maybe make them a 530. That brings them in, suits that tabletop a bit better. Back here, table 2, upload, download. Now we can just flick between table 1 and table 2. Okay, that's basically how the tool works. The only thing I haven't really done here is I haven't focused on specification parameters and stuff like that. So you'll have to let me know, and maybe some of the representation things haven't been completely ironed out. Oh, the 2D thing, that's the other thing I've got to mention. If you go to the representation, you have an option here. These are all the different, you got 8 elements, so 8 contour pins, 8 fills, blah, 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 blah. Apply 3D projection. If you have a look at this table in 2D, it's got a fairly funky 2D representation. So I'm going to try and work out a solution for these. I thought I'd actually done that with the revolve, but I'll have to look at that. And see why that's not working. You should just see a circle there for that revolve. I'm pretty sure I had that sorted out. But a lot of things are going to be fairly complex and you're not going to be able to get the right 2D representation automatically. So there's the apply 3D projection. Okay. And there's your table. However, with that on, you obviously lose all the hotspots, so you won't be able to modify components with that on. So you need to turn it off if you want to go in and start changing shapes of things. Okay, yep, let me know what parameters you need for just, general specification values, and I can put those into the XML databases as well. So you can store, you'll be able to store those parameter values, whatever it might be, product codes, names, just some sort of reference. You'll be able to store that with the assemblies as well as the geometry and stuff. Cool. Hope you like it, and let me know how you go.